Hi class, so today we're going to focus on listening and responding, which is chapter 5. If you like, you can pull your textbook so that you can follow along with the subject areas as I go through them. I will do this in two parts so that it's not long and difficult for those of you who do not have high-speed internet. So let's start with what is listening. Now, a lot of times people assume that listening and hearing are the same thing, and actually they're not. Listening and hearing are totally different. In conversations, a lot of times we tell people, you need to listen to me. But more or less what you find they do is that they're hearing you. Hearing is just the sound of when someone is speaking. Listening involves more than you just hearing what the person is saying. It involves you processing and trying to understand what we learned in chapter 1, which was decoding. Where someone speaks, you decode the message and then you find understanding, encode a response, and then send it. So that is, listening is more or less a process. Hearing is just where you take in what someone says. There is no remembering, there is no necessary appropriate feedback, etc. So listening, as the text defines it, is the process of receiving, constructing meaning from, and responding to spoken messages, whether it's through verbal or non-verbal. There are different types of listening. The first one that we have is appreciative listening. And appreciative listening is where you listen things for enjoyment. You like music, you like to watch a show, you're listening to what that show is about or that song because you enjoy what you're hearing. Then we have discriminative listening, and that's listening to understand the meaning in a message. So as someone is saying, you're trying to get the understanding. They may be using words that or being redundant, but you are more or less listening to just gather what they're saying and understand what they're saying so that you can now give a response. There's comprehensive listening, and comprehensive listening is where you try to listen to remember. So in this case, you are going to be listening to remember because there may be a discussion forum or quiz to follow this chapter on listening. So as you listen, you're trying to remember what is being said. Next, we have empathic listening. Empathic listening is where you listen to understand the speaker's feelings about the message. So you have discriminative listening where you're trying to get the message itself. But then you have empathic listening where you're listening to the nonverbals, the tone of the person, trying to get their feelings, the way they are looking. So you're looking at their nonverbals while they're speaking just to get their emotions and their thoughts as they share it. And then you have lastly critical listening. Critical listening is to evaluate the truthfulness or honesty of a message. So teachers do this a lot of times when you come and you say, well, miss, I didn't get to do an assignment, and you have an excuse as to why or a reason as to why you didn't do that assignment. At that point, we're listening critically to see, okay, are you being truthful or were you just delinquent or not to do it? And, then we make our decisions. But that is the different types. So again, we'll go over it. You have appreciative, discriminative, comprehensive, empathic listening, and critical listening. Now, there's steps in the listening process, and it's very similar to the whole perception process. First, you have to attend to what the message is. In attending, you need to get physically ready to listen. That means if someone says, hey, I need to talk to you, and you're standing away from them, you're far apart, you're watching the television, you would need to turn towards them as they speak, angle your body appropriately, look as if you are really listening. You can't speak from a distance and trying to say, okay, go ahead and talk. I'm listening, but you're a good distance, or your body's angled in a different, somewhere else. So the person is speaking to you and you're looking elsewhere. You need to physically put your body in a posture that is conducive to that person listening. And a lot of times I've learned though in relationships that you need to get to find out what posture exactly they want you to adapt to, because some individuals are okay if you're looking afar and all of that, and others want you to have your body angled towards, make the eye contact, etc. 2, resist mental distractions while you're listening. And we have this struggle sometimes where so many things are going on in our mind, and someone is speaking, and while they're speaking, you're hearing, but you're not paying attention because a lot of stuff is going on in your mind. generally you can't listen carefully to a conversation while you're processing information in your mind. So you want to take away all those mental distractions. 3, resist interrupting others. So a lot of people are pros at that. Someone is speaking, and while they're speaking, you have an idea, you have a response, and you immediately want to respond. So you interrupt them, and you didn't hear them fully explain themselves or completely finish what they want to say. So you want to avoid it. When you're paying attention in a conversation, take note of it, but do not interrupt. 4, hear the person out before you react. So again, you interrupt and then you don't hear them out. Those go almost hand in hand. You want to hear someone explain, especially when there's conflict. You want to let the person speak clearly, say out what they have to say, and then you respond. Because sometimes our response, we can more or less, even though we may be able to predict how it ends, sometimes we don't know truly how it ends. And lastly, 5, observe nonverbal cues. So as someone is speaking, watch their nonverbal behavior. Make sure it's in line with what they're saying. It's not contradicting and all of that. So attending was the first step in the listening process. The second we have would be understanding. And understanding is decoding the message accurately to reflect the meaning intended by the speaker. This is just where you try to understand. You look at the nonverbals, you listen to the words that they're saying, you try to decode it as accurately. And you do that based on the individuals themselves. There's certain things that people can say and they can mean totally different when it's a different person. Someone tells you I love you, and if it comes from somebody who you care about, that I love you means a lot. But if it comes from somebody who you know has been despising you and treating you bad, when they say I love you, you're not going to be taking it as I love you. You're going to read between the lines and say, okay, they're up to something. So in understanding, we have the first point so that you understand clearly. 1, ask questions to gain additional information. So rather than you take away the wrong impression, ask your questions. Clarify yourself so that you can get to understand fully what they're saying. Paraphrase the message to check your understanding. Paraphrase what they say. Now some people overdo paraphrasing, but you want to make sure the conversation is constant. So they tell you something, and what you do, you paraphrase what they say and say, is that correct? So that you avoid conflict. 3, empathize with the speaker. Sometimes we need to stop listening directly or being too articulate and believe what we want to believe, but try to understand things from the other person's point of view. There's always reasons. I always tell people, there are always reasons why people do certain things. Some of them are justifiable, others may not be, but there are reasons. So try to be a little understanding as someone shares their whatever their thoughts are with you. And lastly, the remembrance stage. You need to remember. And remembering, this is like the 3rd stage. Remember, you need to remember what people are saying. So what tips you can use to help remember? 1, repeat what they're saying. Paraphrasing, that helps to reinforce it. That's why when you're training kids to learn, or like say learn a poem or anything like that, you have them say it and repeat it so that they can understand it. Then we have construct mnemonics. Mnemonics are those little abbreviation. I remember when I did math, we had, I think, and it's in the text, I think it's every good boy deserves food. The text says every good boy does fine. I remember learning that, and each of those letters actually mean something. A lot of people, when they do math, they do BODMAS, brackets of division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. Those are mnemonics. And lastly, to help you remember, take notes. I always advise people, if you have problems remembering, like I do, walk with a little book. If you have your phone, take a note on your phone so that you can cover your bases and be able to regurgitate that information.